Well, good morning. Always great to be back in Bay County. I want to recognize all the dignitaries we have. I've brought Dane Eagle from the Department of Economic, as well as Kevin Guthrie from the Florida Division of Emergency Management. And of course, we have our Chief Financial Officer, Jimmy Petronis, and Jay Trumbull, our Appropriations Chair. I think Senator Gaynor's here. Senator, thank you so much for being here. We also have, I think, a sheriff. Is Tommy here? All right, the sheriff. We got folks from the Bay County Commission. We've got folks from Panama City Beach. We have folks, I think, from the city here as well, mayors, and a lot of good folks who've really been working hard over the last 3 years. And we're here today to commemorate 3 years, almost 3 years, for the anniversary of Hurricane Michael. And, you know, I remember leading up to Michael, there wasn't a week out from Michael, no one was even talking about a hurricane. And then you started to see the storm in the Gulf, and it was an event, but even 72 hours before, people were not predicting it to be the type of event that it became. And of course, once it hit landfall, it was the first Category 5 storm to hit the state of Florida since Hurricane Andrew in 1992. And for those of you who've ever been down in that Homestead area down in South Florida, Hurricane Andrew absolutely kneecapped that part of the state. And it still hasn't fully recovered. And so when you have a storm of that magnitude, this is not something that can be dealt with in days, weeks, or months. I mean, this is a long-term project. When you would drive in, I mean, if you came in from the west, there were things that looked fine. All of a sudden, you would go, and it was like catastrophe. And it really, I mean, to me, it didn't even look like a hurricane. It looked like a tornado that went through and would just absolutely devastate buildings, of course, the trees. I mean, we drive in, I still see a lot of the trees knocked over from that. And so this was a really, really serious punch. It dislocated people forever, changed lives, and obviously changed this community. And so, you know, the question is, when you face that, you know, how do you respond? And that was May of 2018. I was not governor yet. I got elected shortly thereafter. And when I got sworn in, we came here, and outside of this community, most people kind of moved on from Michael. You know, it just wasn't on the front pages. It wasn't something that people were talking about. And you know, we made it clear that we understand that you know, it was not over, and really was just beginning the recovery process. And so we made our commitment to this community, and we've been able to accomplish an awful lot. When I first got into office, one of the first things I did was fly up to Washington, meet with President Trump, and ask him to authorize additional assistance for things like debris removal and individual assistance, because people needed it, the communities needed it, and to his credit, he supported us at really significant levels. And because he had the discretion to increase the reimbursements, you know, that ended up being hundreds of millions of dollars extra for both the local communities as well as the state, for doing things like cleaning up all the debris in Mexico Beach and doing all the stuff around Panama City and everything else that was affected. And so through those efforts, in terms of the public assistance portion, we in the state of Florida have been able to help with about $1.3 billion in things like debris removal and processing individual assistance, and obviously with federal reimbursements. You know, that's been very, very significant. We've also done a lot with the Department of Economic Opportunity, and today one of the reasons we're here is obviously commemorate 3 years ago, but also to just remind people we're still in the fight, we're still going to do more. So today we're actually proud to be able to announce an additional $3.1 million in hazard mitigation matching awards from the Department of Economic Opportunity. So as the counties and cities continue to rebuild, this money will provide $2.7 million to Bay County for generators, emergency services improvements, and water lines. Also money for the city of Chattahoochee for critical facilities and infrastructure generators. Money for Talquin Electric Cooperative for generators in Gadsden and Leon. And Wakulla money for generators to operate shelters and maintain operations. And so, you know, these FEMA hazard mitigation program funds are important funding. The issue is that when you get the funds, the community has to pay a 25% match for receiving the funding. And as many of you know, I mean, some of the cities in really all of Florida, but in Northwest Florida, I mean, some of the cities are not going to be able to produce that type of money. And so we're happy that what we're doing today is basically we're covering, that match for these communities. And so that will now mark more than $228 million in total funding to date from DEO to Hurricane Michael impacted communities in long-term disaster recovery. We have $106 million more in this funding that we will continue to provide communities that are still rebuilding, and we're looking to secure additional mitigation money as well. Recently, the Division of Emergency Management requested the federal government to review the state's mitigation allocation for Hurricane Michael. We were able to secure an additional $43 million to be used for existing projects, bringing the total allocation from $374 to $417 million. Of course, as many of you know, I mean, we have some significant inflation, so a lot of this stuff just more expensive, and we've had to move stuff around with our long-term rebuilding across the state, not just for Michael, but for that. So that's going to be very helpful to at least keep things on schedule. And so we are, we think that you can do what needs to be done, and also in the process potentially do things that maybe we would have liked to have done anyways, and so you can have even stronger infrastructure here. We've worked with, of course, the legislature on the Hurricane Michael State Recovery Grant Program, and that's $20 million to the affected counties, so we were proud of doing that. We're also proud of securing funding for the Florida Timber Recovery Block Grant Program, which directly supported timber producers who suffered losses as a result of Hurricane Michael. And so we are going to continue in the fight. And while Michael eroded beaches, downed trees, which littered forest floors and clogged waterways that caused major damage at our award-winning state parks, we've been hard at work at restoring those natural resources, and thus far we've invested more than $120 million to renourish beaches, remove debris from our land and waterways, and rebuild State Park. And obviously we've also had recovery funding dispersed to agriculture producers, schools, places of worship, as well as to municipalities. We'll continue to make strides in this recovery. We continue to recognize the importance of disaster mitigation and how it can help protect Floridians. And so I think we're very, of course, mindful of the long haul, but I'll tell you, this community has bounced back very resolutely. And this is not an easy thing to go through, and I can tell you when we've worked with everybody, on the ground, people do work together. People are very appreciative anytime we're able to be helpful, and I think the process obviously isn't over, but I think you've done better than many other communities would have done, given the cards that you were dealt. And so it's really been an honor for me to be able to come and work with a lot of great people. And of course, we've got a lot of folks that wield some significant power in Tallahassee that are from this area, that are always looking out for everybody's best interest here. So I'm going to let some of them come up and say a few things. And so we'll have our Chief Financial Officer, Jimmy Petronas.
Good morning. Thank you, Governor. You're the third governor that I've had the honor to work with, and so you get a lot of anticipation, excitement, what's in store. And I love to remind people, especially the people here in this community that I love so much, his very first, most significant speech he's given since he's been in public office, his inaugural address. The one thing he outlines is the recovery of Northwest Florida. And his very first day in office, very first day, we climbed in Tommy Ford's Tahoe, and you flew in town with Casey, and we drove down to Mexico Beach. And you were boots on the ground, not just that first day, but I think 3 more times in the next week, as you never let any daylight get between you and the recovery of this part of the state. And your commitment has been steadfast. It has been, ever supportive. And the men and women here went through the storm. They dealt with incredible tragedy. It's hard to believe it's 3 years and we still drive around town and we still see the elements of what happened here 3 years ago. But you haven't forgot about us. You continue to remind people like Kevin Guthrie and Dane Eagle that Northwest Florida needs help, and the men and women of this part of the state are forever in your debt. I had some prepared notes, but I think it's more important just to make sure you knew how much these people here in this room get to look forward to raising their kids and staying in this community. But if it's not for your leadership, you leveraging the White House, you're making such a difference in the lives of our first responders who have been through so much over the last 2 years. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you for what you've done and helped us navigate COVID. It has been, yeah. Tell you, you didn't have a playbook to work from. You studied the math, you studied the science, you made decisions, but you kept people safe and you kept the economy open. And you know, and I know you're already pre-spending some of Jay Trumbull's money with what you're doing next year, but that's okay because I know Jay Trumbull and George are going to be looking out for the people in Northwest Florida. So anyway, staff, sorry I didn't read a damn thing there, but I just want to let you know from the bottom of my heart, in Northwest Florida, we love you. Thank you.
First, thank you, Governor, for being here. You know, you, like Jimmy said, you made a promise before you got elected when you came to our communities, and you said we're not going to forget about you. And boy, you have shown us that you have not forgotten, and that means so very much. You know, you have stood time and time again, shoulder to shoulder with myself and Senator Gaynor when we're fighting for much needed resources of our ravaged community in Tallahassee, and you've been there, and thank you so much for that. You know, shortly after the storm, we were looking for resources to be able to start the rebuild process. We looked locally and realized that all of those dollars had already been depleted. You know, we called up to FEMA and no one seemed to answer the phone, but we quickly started looking at Tallahassee. And you reminded us that you would be there with us. And you know, today marks an incredible point in our journey of rebuilding of over $1 billion just from the state of Florida to these communities that need it absolutely the most. You know, Jimmy talked about it, you talked about it. I like to talk about it a lot. There is no stronger group of people than Northwest Floridians. To have gone through this unprecedented past 3 years of a hurricane and a global pandemic, to be able to see that prosperity is continuing to happen in our community is really something to behold. And you know, I'm proud of the fact that you know we all live here and that we all can pick ourselves up by our bootstraps the day after Hurricane Michael, and even and face adversity as it relates to the pandemic. But due to your policies and due to the resources you've been able to help provide to us, this place is growing and it's coming back. We've got an Air Force base that is going to be the greatest in the world. We've got a place that people want to grow a family in and start a business in, and we could not do that without the support of folks like you in Tallahassee. We could not do that without you going to D.C. and convincing the president to help us out in a significant way. So, thank you very much for what you've done, and I look forward to what the next year looks like, the next budget looks like, and hopefully continuing to be able to bring much needed resources to these areas. So thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Okay. I want to thank Jay for helping out with things really across Florida. Jay really helped us get through our law enforcement and first responder bonuses, which we were very proud of being able to do. Told him, I was like, I may want to do it again, so be prepared. So we'll see. And really just delivered on a lot of good stuff for the state of Florida, and did it in a way that is really preserving our long-term solvent. We have more budget reserves than we probably have ever had. A lot of people weren't predicting that. You look at the amount of revenue that's coming in just because of the underlying strength of our economy. We're getting $300, $400, $500 million over the estimate almost every month now. That'll be billions more dollars. And so you go through a difficult period, and to be able to come out really strong, and that doesn't even count this federal money, that's really, I think good for Florida over the long term, and hopefully we are able to navigate whatever comes down the pike. I am concerned about the inflation that's being driven by, I think, a lot of bad policies in Washington, and that eats away families' budgets. The gas is going through the roof. I mean, it's incredible how much gas has gone up. And then just building things, everything's more expensive. So it's like, yeah, there's people want to come and build homes here. It's harder to build them because it's harder to get the materials and it's more expensive and everything. So this is going to have a huge effect. They said that this was not going to be something that was sustained, and yet we see it. It is sustained. It's real. The energy. Why are we not doing energy resources that we have? We should be doing the pipelines. We should be doing the stuff in ANWR and other things so that we're energy independent. Instead, we're now begging OPEC to lower prices. That's not where you want to be. So those, I think, are beyond our control at the state level, but those could be, some significant headwinds. And I think it's just unfortunate if that were to happen because, we've got a lot of great momentum going, and we've really done our job well here in Florida to make sure people have opportunity. And, how many hundreds of thousands of jobs were saved and how many businesses were saved. And we're proud of that. We want to make sure we can keep going. So the inflation needs to be dealt with. The gas prices need to be dealt with. And these are really legitimate problems. All right, Kevin Guthrie.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I'm going to go ahead and pull a CFO maneuver here. I'm probably going to go off script. Sorry, Sam. But I do want to just start with saying, again, Governor, thank you for your leadership. CFO, Secretary Eagle, Chairman Gaynor, Chairman Trumbull, thank you for your leadership as well. As I look around this room, I don't see, 3 years ago today, I was sitting in an EOC in Tallahassee monitoring a tropical depression that 72 hours later became a Cat 5 landfalling hurricane up here. But what I see now, instead of individuals that were just in their first couple of days of being a city manager or experienced emergency managers now become county administrators, Bob, Sheriff Ford, I see friendships, right? And I think that's very, very important as we move forward, that we continue to develop and foster our relationships. I know that all of you know and have my phone number, and as well as the governor. We're here to support you. So I just a little off script there. This mitigation money, again, as the governor mentioned, we went back to the federal government and said, look, we want you to get that pencil out and start looking again because we think we got more money out there, and we were able to get $43 million more for the 13 counties that were impacted by Hurricane Michael. Working with Secretary Eagle, looking for innovative ways that we could do that match program. We have been able to get this money out to you today, and we're going to be looking for more opportunities as we continue to move forward on how we can do more match programs in the Panhandle with this money. So again, it's with the governor's leadership, this is what we've been able to do. And again, I apologize to my staff for going way off script there, but it is our staff in Tallahassee. That's that recovery staff. It's that mitigation staff that have been working so diligently over the last 3 years to help the Panhandle out, and we're going to still be here. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, so I'll be here with you through long haul. All right, thank you.